Before late 2022, the internet was entirely authored by us. It was a messy, sprawling archive of human thought, art, typos, and weird edge cases. When researchers built the first large language models, they succeeded because of this chaos. They fed billions of these organic, unpredictable human interactions into neural networks to teach them how to communicate. But today, the web looks different. By some estimates, over 70% of new web pages now contain synthetic text, generated images, or automated code. We are flooding the ecosystem with AI slop. This means the foundational fuel for artificial intelligence has flipped. Instead of observing the unpredictable variants of human behavior, these models increasingly consume the predictable outputs of machines. To build the next generation of AI, tech companies must scrape the internet all over again to gather new training data. Because the internet is now filled with synthetic content, these new models are scraping and learning from the outputs of their predecessors. It is a digital snake eating its own tail. Computer scientists call this a recursive training loop. The output of Model A becomes the training data for Model B, which generates the training data for Model C. Forcing a statistical prediction engine to learn exclusively from its own past predictions actively degrades the structural integrity of the entire system. To understand why this happens, we have to look at how these systems actually work. An AI does not reason or think. It calculates the highest probability of a pattern based on the data it has consumed. This chart shows a standard distribution curve of training data. AI mathematically favors the most common patterns, the dense cluster in the middle, and ignores the outliers. These tails represent rare languages and creative leaps. In a recursive loop, they are mathematically dropped. Within just a few generations of training on synthetic data, the model loses its capacity for nuance, producing a homogenized, highly probable version of reality. Researchers call this semantic drift. Every time a model generates an answer, it makes a tiny statistical approximation error. When the next model trains on that answer, those tiny errors compound. Think of it like photocopying a photocopy. The first copy is legible, but if you copy the copy 10 more times, the fine details blur, the structure degrades, until it's a gray smear. The tech industry has a specific term for this algorithmic inbreeding. They call it Habsburg AI, named after the European royal family whose bloodline collapsed after centuries of intermarriage. By the 10th generation of recursive training, outputs become highly repetitive and stripped of human meaning, functioning strictly as an echo chamber for the machine's own statistical biases. If the loop continues past generation 15, the degradation accelerates. Researchers at Rice and Stanford universities tracked these late-stage loops and documented a catastrophic functional breakdown. They named this phenomenon model autophagy disorder, or MAD. Autophagy literally means self-eating. It is a direct comparison to mad cow disease, a fatal neurodegenerative illness caused by feeding cattle the processed remains of other cattle. When an AI goes mad, it completely loses its grip on reality. Language models start babbling about jackrabbits when asked about architecture. Image generators turn classical statues into a collapse of pixelated gray geometric blocks. At this late stage, the model has suffered irreversible defects. Mathematically, it can no longer recover its lost representational capacity. This mathematical decay creates a massive cultural problem. If the engines that power our digital infrastructure default to the statistical average, we risk flattening digital culture on a global scale. Because the algorithm prioritizes majority patterns, marginalized voices, unique cultural expressions, and weird human edge cases are the first casualties. Tech companies know this. They are currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars to sign licensing deals, desperately trying to secure private vaults of clean, uncontaminated, pre-2022 human data. Maintaining a minimum ratio of fresh, human-authored data is a structural necessity to stave off the entropy spiral. We are left with a deep irony. Tech giants have built a multi-trillion-dollar system designed to replace human output, yet that very system is structurally dependent on human output to survive. The messy, organic nature of human error and the unpredictability of our creativity are exactly what prevents statistical collapse. A moment of wonder. Human creativity is the essential